Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Lullaby 8 knitting podcast. My name's Paula. I live south of Edinburgh with my husband and cat, who is, because it's winter now, we've got the heating on, so she's got a little blanket and desk above a radiator, so that's where she tends to go to during the day. So just me today, but she might reappear. Yeah, so this is episode 4. It's been a while since I recorded, and that's mainly due to just life events. Been a lot happening, busy, various things. So anyway, so that means I've actually got quite a lot to get through today. So if you've seen my previous episodes, you'll know that I like to start with a bit of a retrospective, and that's where I kind of showcase a pattern that I knitted. Because I've been knitting for such a long time, it's a pattern that usually I've knitted a few years ago, and I've knitted a few versions of, and it's just to kind of show the variety that you can get from one pattern by knitting it in different ways. But because I do have a lot to get through today, I'm going to try and cut the retrospective down to a kind of shorter amount of time. So the pattern that I'm showcasing today is it's from this book, which is Vintage Knits by Sarah Dallas. I think I got this many years ago, almost 20 years ago actually. Let's see if I can see when it was published. 2002 it was published, and I think I probably got it quite soon after that. Anyway, this is the pattern. Yeah, and it's really beautiful. So what Sarah Dallas has done in the book is taken vintage knitting patterns and updated them to the early noughties. And yeah, they're really lovely. Pattern. I'll just see if I can see if this has got the original pattern that she, yeah, so you can just see, along with some of my notes, you can just see there that that's the pattern she, in all of them she kind of puts, you see the black and white one there. So that was her starting point for this pattern. So I call this my TV jumper because it's so easy to knit. It's stocking stitch, so it's really easy to knit while watching TV. I really quite like 40s, 50s style of knitting. I like the way that I think most of the women there had to be really inventive because of lack of resources. You know, it's not like today where you can go online and just drop everything into your basket and then the postman arrives with lots of lovely wool. Sometimes they had to rip back other sweaters to re-knit them. They had to kind of, because they didn't always have a lot of wool. So this is a short sleeve jumper. So they kind of amended patterns to use the materials that they had. So there'd be short sleeves, or they'd knit a kind of little detail into it, like different stitches to give it some interest. So yeah, so I really do like those patterns. So I really love this book, and I've knitted a few things from it. So the TV jumper. So quite often previously when I came across a new pattern, I would knit it faithfully to start with. So I'd knit it as the pattern suggested, and then in subsequent versions I would change things to suit myself. So I'd lengthen it, or I'd omit a detail or add another detail, change the motif, that kind of thing, as I showed in my Chickadee cardigan. So this is my first version. It's actually, I think it might even be in the same colours as in the thing. So this is, they've all been folded away. So it's got this, if you can see, it's got this mohair stripe every 10 rows, which is really lovely. So the pattern construction, this is kind of really old style knitting, so it's where you knit the front, knit the back, knit the sleeves flat, everything's flat, and then you sew it all together, and it's one of my least favourite parts of knitting. I hate sewing garments together. Plus I never get a great finish. I mean, look, that's my seaming. It's okay, but it's not my favourite thing to spend time on. So that's why I love today's patterns, where people like designers like Petite knit, and pretty much everybody else these days. Ysolda is great at this as well. Constructs a pattern where you just knit, you engineer the knitting shaping into the knitting, and then when you're finished, that's the garment finished. You don't have to sew anything together, hardly ever. So this has been knit flat, front, back, and then the sleeves. It's all sewn together, and then picked up and knit for the collar, the ribbing at the collar. And that was that. This is knitted in, just so you know, if I was to do this today, I would just modify the pattern, amend the pattern, so that I knitted it in the round until I got to its bottom up. I just knit it in the round until I got to the sleeves, and then I would kind of do some jiggery pokery to get the top. But I'd definitely not knit it flat now. So yeah, so the wool that I used for this first version, I've got 7 versions. I'll rattle through the rest quickly. The wool that I used for this there used to be a yarn company called Jaeger. Used to produce yarns, and so Jaeger 4-ply was probably one of my all-time favourite wools to knit with, but I am talking about 20 years ago, and they had really beautiful colours, so I really love this kind of deep purple. So yeah, this is Jaeger 4-ply, and then the kind of green stripe is Rowan Kidsilk Haze. So in the pattern, and again this is something that I don't like about old knitting patterns. So in new knitting patterns, they give you the yardage or the meterage that you need to knit a pattern, whereas in the kind of old days, so my SD card was full, so I had to delete a few things off it. I should have checked it before I started. Yeah, so what I was saying was, what I like about patterns, current patterns, is that they tell you the yardage or the meterage of yarn that you need to knit the garment, whereas in old patterns they would say you need 6 balls of whatever and 2 balls of whatever. So for example, this pattern, I can't remember how many balls the main colour said it needed to knit the main colour, but for the Kidsilk Haze it says that you needed 2 balls of Kidsilk Haze. So when I knitted this, I duly went and bought 2 balls of Kidsilk Haze, and when I'd finished knitting, so Kidsilk Haze comes in 25-gram balls. When I finished knitting, I had more than 25 grams of Kidsilk Haze left. So in actual fact, I only needed 1 ball, and what I did in subsequent versions was I just took a strand of yarn from the outside and the inside of the ball, and yeah, and that worked, and I still had some left. That's why if you saw my previous episode 3, where I talk about the Sophie scarf, so these jumpers are where a lot of my Kidsilk Haze yarn, leftover yarn, came from, these jumpers. So yeah, but I really like this. So I've also said before that I kind of find it's a bit of a kind of contradiction, I think, a woolly short sleeve jumper, because it's either cold enough for wool or it's warm enough for short sleeves, and so I kind of find it difficult having the two together. And actually for quite a while I do wear them, and I have worn them quite a bit, but I kind of couldn't quite decide how and where to wear these, because yeah, is it too cold or is it too hot? Anyway, so that's my first version of the vintage knits jumper. So my second version, so I knitted the next two versions also in short sleeves, but I lengthened the body. But then you'll see afterwards I went back and I added sleeves because it was that thing. I realised I wasn't wearing the jumpers, and I spent, it being 4-ply, I'd spent so much time knitting them that I didn't want to not wear them. So and so by this time, so this is blue and kind of raspberry. So this blue is also Jaeger 4-ply, and the raspberry is Kidsilk Haze as well. So by the time I decided to knit sleeves to add on to the jumpers, the Jaeger had stopped, was no longer a kind of operational company, stopped operating. So I had to, the kind of closest blue I could get was this Rowan 4-ply. So what I did was, probably if I'd been able to find, if Jaeger had still been operating, I would probably just have got the ball colour again, the wool colour again, and knitted the whole sleeve and then attached the whole sleeve. But because I couldn't, I decided just to add, so to knit, I basically just knitted from here to here, the sleeve, and then stitched it in. So it looks a bit peculiar, and this has actually got a wee hole that I'll have to mend in the top corner. So anyway, so I started wearing these and I actually got a lot of wear out of them from adding the sleeves in, so it was a good thing to do. Sometimes people comment on them and I have to tell the story, which is fine. Yeah, and I thought also about taking the sleeves off and just using them as short sleeve jumpers again and putting them under a cardigan, but I would end up having to find a long sleeved garment to put under anyway, so I kept the funny sleeves, and this jumper particularly has got a lot of use, and I really like it. So that's my blue version. The next one is it's a bit peculiar. I honestly don't know what I was thinking about when I did this. So I'll show you the top first. So this is the top. So this is, I think this is Rowan. I'd gone on to Rowan by this point. Jaeger was no longer operating. So this is Rowan, and I think it's a wool cotton mix. It certainly feels like it. It's such a long time ago, I don't completely remember, but it feels like a wool cotton mix, and I think I remember it's either a wool cotton or wool linen. Anyway, so this is my green version, but then you get to the sleeves. So I knitted this as a short sleeve jumper. The only modification I made was to lengthen it because it was quite cropped in the pattern, and then I decided to add red sleeves to match the red Kidsilk Haze, and yeah, I'm not really sure why. So the jumper looks a bit funny, but you know, I also quite like that. What I quite like about kind of older style knitting, you know, like knitting from the 40s and 50s where rationing was still happening, and so there's an inventiveness comes into play where resources are restricted or limited, and I really like using what I have sometimes. I mean, this isn't an example of that. I probably went and bought the wool for the sleeve. I don't remember actually. I might have had it in the stash, I don't know. But I like when something does look homemade, handmade, and when somebody's just decided to try something. So yeah, that's my green and red jumper. I do wear it, I have worn it a lot, and it's fine under cardigans, obviously, because you can't see the crazy red sleeves. So yeah, that's my green one. So then, by the time I'd got onto my fourth TV jumper, so within the book there's a pattern for a bolero cardigan, which pretty much almost matched the short sleeves part of the pattern for this jumper. So all I did from here on in was use the bolero sleeve pattern for this jumper. So this is Rowan 4-ply with orange Kidsilk Haze. As you can see, it's probably a wee bit felted, but it still fits really well, and it's a really cosy jumper. I really like the blue and orange together, and yeah, so that's full sleeves attached from the beginning. So yeah. So my next jumper, when I lived in London, I went to the knitting and stitching show, yeah, at Alexandra Palace, and which was great, and I got 10 balls of some kind of Rowan tweed 4-ply, really cheaply at the time. I think it was on sale somehow for some reason. So anyway, this used to be, so this is the jumper, obviously with sleeves attached and intact. It's a really kind of gorgeous, I don't know if you can see the kind of tweediness of the wool. It's got kind of flecks of kind of yellow and orange in it. It's a really lovely yarn, really beautiful, and it was very well worn, very much loved, until I put it in the wash one day, not on a wool cycle. I must have just chucked it in with a normal wash, and so it's come out felted. It still fits me and I can still wear it, but it's not the jumper it was. And yeah, I was really upset when I realised what I'd done. When I pulled this out of the wash and saw it, I was, yeah, pretty upset. It's a gorgeous jumper, and it suits the pattern really well. The wool suits the pattern really well. Anyway, that's that. So the next jumper, I kind of decided to play around a bit with the, well, you can see. This is I call it my bee jumper, and it was inspired by one of my work colleagues at the time. So this is when I worked in Norfolk, lived in Norfolk for a while. And one of my colleagues had a Next jumper that it was quite like this. I think hers was actually short sleeved actually, but it was otherwise similar. The shaping was maybe a bit different, but I just really liked it so much that I decided to knit myself a version with long sleeves. It's actually, the black is two different wools. I think the black is Jaeger, and I think it's from, I actually frogged, I had knitted the bolero cardigan from the Vintage Knits book, but the band, the kind of the ribbing band round that kind of went round the whole bolero, you knitted that just by itself and then attached it, and I'd never done that before, and I didn't attach it quite right, so it had a kind of kink to it which I could never quite get to lie flat no matter how much I steam pressed it. And I mean, it was okay, sometimes it sat okay, but it just bothered me. It was never quite right, and I couldn't quite face unpicking the band and then shortening it and then reattaching it. I didn't have the kind of knitting skill at the time to feel like I could do that. Now I would quite easily be able to do that, I think. But so the top part is kind of from a frogged bolero, and the sleeves actually, so the good thing about it was the sleeves were exactly this. So I already had the sleeves, so I just had to knit the front and back and do the collar, and so yeah, and this has got a lot of wear, this jumper. And actually even now we've got an allotment, and there's our kind of allotment neighbour Hugh, who's 83. I wore it the other day, and the first thing he said to me was, "You look like a bee," which was the look I was going for. So I was very happy about that. Okay, so the final TV jumper I knitted So this is obviously, when I lived in Norfolk, I obviously had a lot of time on my hands because knitting 4-ply, until very, very recently, I've been off knitting in 4-ply because it just takes forever. It takes ages. But I also had a lot of time on my hands when I lived in Norfolk, and so yeah, so 7 versions of the 4-ply jumpers. So this is my kind of yellow version, and it's my least favourite one. I don't know why. So I really quite liked the yellow in the shop when I bought it as Rowan 4-ply again. I really liked it in the shop. I thought it'd be really nice, knitted up. And somehow when I knitted it, it just, all I could see was like a big yellow block. And so to try to kind of help that, I added these 2 pockets, and then put buttons on the pockets, which the buttons don't do anything. But it's just to try to offset to give some relief to the kind of block of yellow. This has got a little hole in it as well, which I'll need to fix. Just to kind of, yeah, give relief to the block of yellow. And even that I don't think it works. It's still, the yellowness of it bothers me, and I don't know why. It's maybe a bit bigger than, I don't know, maybe the gauge was just a bit bigger. Anyway, so I kind of wear it around the house, and it's okay for doing odd jobs and just slouching about the house, etc. And yeah, it's okay. The final thing I wanted to say about the TV jumpers is that, so nowadays, where is it? Size inclusivity is it's something that people demand and want, and it's really important. Inclusivity in all walks of life is really important. People should be able to not feel like they're excluded for any reason. Everybody should be included, and that's why I really, growing up in the 70s, I really feel for my mother's generation, because we used to watch, as a family, for example, Miss World, which I just think, I feel really annoyed about that now. I feel really angry on my mother's behalf that she was sitting there, everybody, and it was a collective. It wasn't like my dad was, my dad's lovely, so it wasn't like my dad was making her or anybody else. That's just what was on TV. Everybody, all of the neighbours, all of our friends, it was like family entertainment TV. Anyway, so this is not a size inclusive pattern. So I think I either knitted the small or the medium. It's only 3 sizes, it's small, medium or large. The bust size for small is 32, for medium it's 34, and for large it's 36. So I think I knitted at the time the small or the medium. So that is not, so even the updated pattern in 2002, size inclusivity was nowhere to be seen, and that kind of seeks me into my first finished object. I'll just check my recording time, because let's see what I've got. 16, yeah, okay. I'm just wondering if I might start a new recording, just because I'll do the finished objects all together. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 finished objects. Okay. It's just easier starting afresh. I still haven't changed my camera to record longer than 30-minute segments. I've been very busy. Right, so kind of talking about size inclusivity. The next pattern so my first finished object is this pattern. So it's a very, very old pattern. It was my mother-in-law's pattern, and when she died, and sorry, I'm really sorry. This is really, I didn't expect to get caught like this. So when my mother-in-law died, I took quite a lot of her knitting patterns, and so probably about, I don't know, 15-20 years ago she knitted me the it's a kind of off-white version of this, and I can remember at the time really wanting to knit my own because I absolutely loved this waistcoat. So my mother-in-law knitted quite a few garments, cardigans and jumpers for me and my husband and my sister-in-law as well, and presumably her other son, and I loved all of them actually, and I really appreciated, because I was a knitter at the time, so I appreciated how much time and effort and thought had gone into them. And she was quite a wacky character anyway, and her knitting was very wacky. So she, I might kind of dedicate a retrospective in the future to the things that some of the garments I still have that she knitted me. Because she was very inventive in her knitting. So just in terms of like texture and colour and design, I've got a cardigan upstairs that's absolutely beautiful that she designed herself and knitted without a pattern, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's a kind of mohair, kind of charcoal and pink, and it's just beautiful and I love it. But anyway, this is probably my favourite garment, getting emotional again, that she knitted me, and I wore it non-stop, and I literally wore it out, and yeah, so at the time I wasn't a good enough knitter to try this. I tried kind of knitting it, the whole thing, just in seed stitch, but it didn't look right, and I ran out of wool, and then the dye lot for the NYX wool that I got didn't match any, so the whole thing was binned, I think, lost in time. So talking about size inclusivity, I mean, this is just not at all. So I've re-knitted it now, and so how many sizes does it give you? So it's to fit measurements, so it's 4 sizes. The bust measurements either 32, 34, 36 or 38. So I knitted the 3rd size in this, 38 inches. So how women at the time managed with these patterns, I mean, I guess they were all like my mother-in-law, and they were just very good knitters, and they were used to modifying patterns themselves. So the pattern there's a lot going on in the pattern, and I love this photo because knitting patterns these days, everybody looks like they're having fun and they're at the beach and they're walking their kids to school and they're multitasking, and this just looks very, very, very serious. So I think it's quite funny. So my intention was to entirely replicate my off-white version, and I had planned to knit it in Drops Alaska, which I thought would be a good colour. And I still have, I can only find one at the minute because I've been playing with them, but I still had one of I'll see if you can see the button. So this is, so that's the button. I don't know if that focused there. Hold on. That's the button from, I don't know if that's focusing or not. So this is the button from my original version that my mother-in-law made me. So when I literally wore out the version that she'd knitted me, I kept the buttons, probably thinking that at some point I might be able to knit myself a version. So, but when I went to order it from Real Warehouse, they were out of stock of that colour, and I just really, really, really wanted to start knitting this immediately. There's a lot going on in the pattern, so there's they're shaping, so you shape it flat. It's an old pattern. You shape it, knit it flat, 2 fronts and a back, and then you join all together and do a kind of cast on, cast off kind of edging. So to kind of keep track of, I actually cast it on and then realised I'd gone wrong because I was trying to keep the shaping at the front and the side shaping in my head at the same time. So I ended up doing a chart that I could easily follow, and that worked because you then got the cable panel in the middle as well. So this is because I couldn't get the pearl colour of yarn, I had Drops Alaska brown in my stash already that I was going to knit for something else, and I only had 5 balls and I needed more, but I looked on the website and they still had this dye lot that I had, so I just quickly ordered more and started knitting this straight away. So I just absolutely love this waistcoat. It was really good fun doing the little bobbles. That's good fun. It's actually really easy once you get into the rhythm of knitting the panel, and then the rest of it is a kind of, it's probably got some kind of seed stitch or moss stitch name, but it's knit purl, but then on the next row you do a knit on top of a knit and a purl on top of a purl, and then on the 3rd row you do purl knit, so you alternate it then, and then the back is just a kind of straight whatever kind of seed stitch pattern there is. But yeah, so, and then the buttons, so I actually thought I would be able to use the original buttons on this, but they just didn't match at all. So I got these kind of, it looks like they've got a kind of depth to them, these brown buttons, just from Edinburgh Fabrics near to where I work. So I went in and I looked at a few buttons, and then just as I was kind of crouching down trying to choose, my eye spotted them and I just knew that they were the buttons to use. So yeah, so that's my brown waistcoat, and I might do another version because I would like to. It took me 3 weeks, but I was knitting it all the time. But I would really like to have a version, a kind of Aran coloured version with my mother-in-law's buttons. But yeah, I absolutely love it. There's something about it that's really comforting, and it's hard to put into words. It's the same feeling I had when I finished it. I actually hung it up in the kitchen for a couple of days because I was just so in awe of the whole thing. And I was, at points I was a wee bit emotional knitting it because, you know, it made me really appreciate how much work my mother-in-law had put into it, and just choosing the pattern and yeah, all of that. So yeah, so that's my brown waistcoat, and I absolutely love it. I haven't worn it yet. It fits really well. I think she knitted the 3rd size for me because she'd circled the 3rd size, and that's the size that fits me now. But yeah, I really love that. So I'm looking forward to wearing it. Yeah, so there. So that's that. So the next finished object is this. So this is it's called the Snowflake coaster. It's quite big for a coaster, by Martin Storey. It's from this book, Nordic Knits, and I've wanted to knit the Snowflake coaster for years, absolutely years. That's it. So it's knitted in DK. I think the brown and the white. So I just had this in my stash. I think this is left over from this cardigan. And then the white, I think the white is a DK cotton that I've had for years. So yeah, so this is my Snowflake coaster and I really love it. So if you've watched any other episode, you know that I never block. So I thought I would block this because when I finished knitting it, it was misshapen and it was curling a little bit at the top. So I duly washed it, pinned it to, I don't have blocking mat, so I pinned it to a towel and left it, and I left it for about 2 hours and then it was really bugging me. I just couldn't leave it any longer. So I took it out and then it was kind of misshapen on my desk for about a week, and I couldn't stand the misshapenness any longer, so I didn't wet it, I took it and pinned it to my ironing board, and then just steam blocked it, steam pressed it, and then it's come out really well, I think. So yeah, I really love this. It's such a lovely design, and I just think, so it's too big for a coaster. I mean, you know, but yeah, could do with being 3/4 of the size that it is. So what I'll do, because I do want to knit them again, I'd like to knit a set. When I knit them again, I will just knit it in 4-ply, and that should hopefully reduce it to the size that a coaster should be. So yeah, so that's my Snowflake coaster. So my next 2 whips, I'm just going to have a look at the recording time. I'm trying to that's not too bad. I'm trying to kind of go fairly quickly because I do have a lot to get through and I don't want to, I think an hour for an episode is pretty good, and any longer is just a bit long. So my next 2 finished objects are actually Sugarboo Bralettes by Caidree. So I've knitted, this is version 3. It's in Drops Alaska. So I knitted the bust and the body a bit longer. I think maybe about an inch each on both than the previous 2 versions. I've been wearing the other 2 versions quite often and really love them. So I'm really happy to have another 2 versions in my wardrobe. And I just really love them. They're so cozy and they feel really nice. They feel, like I said before, it feels like a knitted hug. And so that's great. So yeah, that's my Sugarboo number 3. And then I have my Sugarboo number 4. So this is Drops Nepal. And again, I've knitted it even the bust and the body longer again. And I think this will probably be if I knit it again, this will probably be the kind of standard length that I knit it to. So yeah, it's just, again, so Drops Nepal. It's a bit softer than Drops Alaska, but I don't think I'm very sensitive to wool. So they both feel great on. They feel really nice and snug and cozy. So yeah, that's my second Sugarboo. And then the final finished object, it's not a knitted item at all. It's so I'll show you my little. So I follow on Instagram. I think it's called Hygge Style, Hygge, however you pronounce Hygge, Hygge, I don't know. So I just couldn't resist. Try and block out my face. I couldn't resist this little tealight holder. It's beautiful, and I love the little kind of decoration at the front as well. It's just gorgeous. So I ordered that. I ordered the Hygge. I love Hygge, as you can probably tell. I ordered the Hygge mug at the same time, cup, for when I have to take a picnic somewhere. So I just really love this, and probably a couple of years ago my husband bought me a home pottery kit because it was when we were watching the Pottery Throwdown, And I kept saying, oh, I would love to try pottery properly. I'd love to try pottery, and I'd love to make things. I'd love to kind of have pottery to do the challenges that they do every week. So this is what I like about the sewing bee and the pottery and bake off. Everybody gets the same brief, and then each person puts their own individual interpretation onto it, and they produce something that's kind of individual to them, and that's what I love about it. So he is so kind. So he bought me a kind of home drying pottery kit. So it comes with clay and some paint and sealant and what else? Kind of shaping tools and a sponge, paintbrushes, that kind of thing. So he bought me that. So this is my version. I'll leave it on. It's a nice one. So I had a go at making that just as a kind of practice, because I thought maybe I could make tea lights, and I actually think I'm really pleased with how it turned out. So I completely copied the design, because it was kind of like a test. So it's got maybe a bigger handle than the original, and changed the colour of the house, but apart from that it's just an exact copy. Because I just wanted to see if I could do it. It took a few days to do it, because I had to, everything takes a few days to dry. And so yeah, but I loved kind of doing little things to every day, like making this thing, the shape, and then letting it dry, then painting it, and then realising that the paint, I'd used white paint and it was too bright, so then dulling it with a bit of yellow mixed in, kind of cream paint, and then drawing the design, then painting that, and then finally kind of glazing it, and I think it turned out really well. I really love it, and I might make more, and maybe kind of do different designs, maybe without the handle as well, but we'll see. So that was really great fun to do. I just love making things. I'm just checking the 18. Okay, I might be able to do the rest in 12 minutes. Maybe not. We'll see. So next up are my whips. Actually, I think I'll stop there and I'll restart it, because I don't really want to break this section. Okay, so I have two whips. One is the Rigmor tea that I showed before. So this for ages. So I started knitting this on the bus on the way to work in the morning, and I had a 2-hour meeting, and I was still on the rib, and I was beginning to feel really disheartened and thinking, oh, this is it's gonna take ages. Even though the first version, having never knitted it before, kind of I was propelled forward to kind of see how it was all gonna kind of pan out, whereas now I know how it pans out. So yeah, so this felt like I was really kind of languishing in the rib in this for ages, and then I had a 3-hour meeting. So I'm kind of taking my inspiration from Rebecca Clow, who in her podcast she talks about knitting in online meetings all the time and how much you can get done. So I have quite a bit of online training coming up before the end of the year, and I was quite happy about that, because I can knit through it. I have to kind of appear on screen occasionally to show that I'm still there and still taking part, but that's fine. It's so anyway, I took this into a 3-hour training meeting I had this week, and it feels like, when you're trying to blow up one of those long balloons excuse me, and you can't quite, getting that initial inflate feels like, I don't know, it's really difficult sometimes. Anyway, I felt like during that meeting I kind of managed to inflate the balloon, because I managed to get onto the body and the thing. So, and I've been knitting this quite a lot actually. It's such an easy, now that I've got where I am, it's quite an easy project to pick up and put down again. It's easy to knit it on the bus and in meetings, because it's literally, until I get to the sleeves, meeting the sleeves. It's just round and round, and it's not boring like stockinette stitch, because you do have the knit two together yarn overs as well in there. So yeah, and I love this colour, so I've been really enjoying knitting this now. I feel like I've kind of inflated the balloon, and it's all happening, so that's good. And then my second whip is a kind of crazy, I need my phone actually, hold on a second. Yeah, so this was inspired by, I follow a I think it's a Japanese knitter, but I think so. I really like Japanese style, and I really like Scandinavian style. So I follow quite a lot of Scandinavian and Japanese, everything, knitwear, homes, hygge, that kind of thing. And so I saw this Shiota Suneo, I think. So that's the, if you can see the design, yeah. So I saw that and I just absolutely loved those loops. There's another one. So I think she actually, I don't think she does the pattern. I think she actually knits the mittens and then sells them. So because I looked for a pattern to see if I could buy the pattern, but I couldn't find it anywhere. So I thought I'll just do my own version. When I was a kid, the girls in my age at school had, some kids have, I didn't have it. It was all the craze to have this kind of loopy cardigans for a while. And I loved the loopy cardigans, and I didn't have one, I never had one, and I was always really envious of the girls who had a loopy cardigan. So when I saw the loopy mittens, I thought I've got to do that. So I just, I've got mitten patterns at Steaky. I bought the wool, and the wool is Willow and Lark Heath solid, so I really liked the brown and pink together. So I basically just started knitting because I thought I'll kind of see how far I get, and then I'll... So this is my loopy mitten. I think it's the same again. Is that the same again? Yeah, it is, because after I'd bought this and I saw after I'd knitted this cardigan, I ordered more along with the pink. So yeah, but look at those loops, they are so cool. I just absolutely love them. When I got to the top, I was so keen to finish that I kind of maybe finished a bit. I wasn't quite sure how to do the top shaping, and so I'll knit the second one to match this, and but then next time I'll probably practice the top shaping just to look how cool. So I've got to knit the thumb still, obviously, but isn't that just, I love it. So I thought I'd do the thumb in this white colour, just because she puts her thumbs are white. She's got really kind of deep hues for the body and the cuff of her knitting. So I thought I'd do the thumb in this. This is a Drops Puna alpaca. I thought I'd do the thumb in that colour. I just love it. It's so, the whole thing is just so cool. I'm so crazily excited about my loopy mitten. Love it. This is the kind of thing, when I'd finished knitting it, I said to my husband, your mother would love these. And she loved anything kind of wacky and inventive and fun. So my mother-in-law would love these loopy mittens. So yeah, I've just started on the second mitten. I'm about to there on the rib. But the loop thing, I had to look on a YouTube tutorial to find out how to do the loops, but they're quite simple. And this knitted up really quickly. I was so keen to kind of get it done that I think it knitted up in, I don't know, a couple of days, 2 or 3 days. So yeah, that's my loopy mitten. And then, so they're my whips. And then the next thing I have, so this is another another designer that Vivio Gutta that I follow, Scandinavian I think. So I saw this, you can see, yeah. So I saw these mittens. I'm not even sure if they're for adults or children. So I saw those mittens, and I just, round about this time of the year when it starts to get kind of cooler and, you know, lighting the fire and that kind of thing, I have a real kind of hankering for like Christmas and coziness and all that. So when I saw these mittens, they've got a kind of Christmas tree kind of purled into them with a strand of mohair. So that's why I bought the drops Puna. I bought a couple of balls of drops Puna. So I thought I'd knit myself, because this is just a test. She was calling for testers, and like I say, I'm not sure if it's adult or just kids. But anyway, I wanted them. So I thought I'd just do a kind of similar thing. I just, this is the Kidsilk from Drops, so I'll just kind of copy the pattern. I'd be quite happy to buy the pattern. If the pattern comes out for an adult, I will buy it and make it, because I think that looks lovely. And the version I'm planning to knit is, I've got a couple of mitten patterns that I'll just kind of modify to fit me. So I'll probably just do like a normal ribbed bottom, and then I'll have to figure out the shaping for the top, because I'd probably like a kind of Scandinavian triangle at the top. So yeah, so we'll see. So that's why I got, so I'm going to have, I'm going to knit myself a pair of Christmas tree white mittens. I've said before, I don't really do white, because I'm not a very white person, because I'm so mucky. You know, I've got animals and down the allotment, and white doesn't really, but I just think this is so soft, and it's really lovely. So, and I really love that design. I thought it was really beautiful. So I'm gonna knit mittens, and it's nice too when you've knit quite a kind of intense big piece. So this waistcoat, when I was it didn't feel like it took long to knit the fronts and the back actually, but it was the finishing, because you've got to do the edging and sew all together. That actually took me a week. The knitting itself happened really quickly, but it was the finishing of it. So after working on quite kind of big projects, it's really nice to work on a pair of mittens that will be finished within a week. So yeah, so that's that. So that's all of the knitting. It was quite a lot to get through, because I hadn't recorded for a while. There's just a couple of other things I wanted to mention. So I love subscriptions. I have done every Kate Davis knitting club for the last kind of 4 or 5 years maybe. And anyway, she's not running one just now, but I noticed that Ysolda is running Knitworthy 7, and I came across it because excuse me, I've been talking for a long time. Yeah, I came across it because I've been watching knitting podcasts, and she has just started podcasting, and I think on her 3rd podcast she showcased her favourite designs from her previous Knitworthy series. So Knitworthy is, I think it's either 6 or 7 patterns released one every fortnight, and up in the lead up to Christmas, and they're kind of smaller accessory type designs. So I signed up to that because I really loved her previous, she's a very innovative designer, and I loved her previous designs, and yeah, they're quite funky, and I thought they were really good fun. So I thought I'll sign up to Knitworthy soon. So I did that, and she's released the first pattern. It cost £16 to sign up in advance, which I thought was quite reasonable, and I think it's £20 if you sign up now for the whole 6 patterns, which I think is still a saving if you wanted to buy them all individually eventually. so yes, the first one was a cowl, which was a kind of basket weave cowl, so I might knit that at some point, maybe not. And I also signed up to, it's a free winter knit along by Martin Storey. So, excuse me. So this is it's the only way I can think to show you what it is. So it's, if you go into Rowan's website, so you can see, so you get these square designs for free. And again, he produced one a week and with an accompanying video, and they're just really fun. And actually, when I saw them, especially the fact that they've released them for free, which I think is really generous, I thought I could use some of those designs, because there's like snowflakes and reindeer. I thought I could use some of those designs with the kind of coaster template, do the kind of edging and all that going forward. So yeah, so but the idea for that is that you knit the squares and then you knit it and you join it together into a blanket. But I think it'd be really cool as individual coasters. So yeah, that's what I plan to do with that. And then the very, very final thing I wanted to mention was, I like to mention podcasters that I've discovered. And my recent podcaster that I've discovered is Almanac Knitters. So quite often if I'm Googling for new podcasts, if I exhaust the podcaster that I've already watched, I'll Google Scottish knitting podcasters or Scandinavian or European. And so when I googled Scottish knitting podcasts, Almanac Knitter came up. And initially I wasn't sure because it's a man, and I was thinking just in terms of a man may not be knitting the kind of garments. What I like about other podcasts is that you know, they show things that I'm going to knit myself, or like the Sugarboo Bralette I discovered through a podcast. But anyway, he has children and he knits for kind of friends and family, so he actually does knit garments for women. But he's just a really nice person, and I really like, he lives in Arran, and so he shows some of Arran, which is really beautiful, and some of the work he does as well. And as a kind of coherent, cohesive podcast, it's a really lovely space. So if you haven't discovered Almanac Knitters and you're looking for a new podcaster, I recommend him. So that's everything for today. I'll try not to leave it so long before I record again. Just depends on life, obviously. And so all of my friends and family are telling me that I have to tell anybody who's watching to like and subscribe, because that way my profile will be raised or something. A few people have subscribed, which is really great, thank you. I really love talking about knitting, and I love watching other podcasts and seeing what people have done. I love podcasters who do different things, so I hope that by showing you some vintage designs today and smaller designs, mittens and coasters, that's my bag. I love kind of mixing and rediscovering patterns as well, and good ideas. So yeah, please like and subscribe if you like the content. And yeah, I'm off to have my lunch now, and my husband's away working at the minute, so he's away for a couple of weeks on tour. He's a sound engineer. So it's just me and Meg home alone with the chickens and the allotment, and we've got the fire blazing, and I have to get all my knitting and my laptop and everything that I need in an evening kind of beside me, because once Meg's on me, I can't move. She's really offended and kind of like disgusted if I move her when she's snuggled on my lap. So yeah, that's what Meg and I do when my husband's away. We just snuggle up on the couch. We've got a roaring fire, and yeah, we just knit and watch something, podcasts or some comedy or something. So yeah, so that's my plan for the next fortnight. Okay, so thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.